All right, today we're diving into a really powerful Bible study that takes on some of the biggest, heaviest issues we face: poverty, corruption, and injustice. We're going to see how these themes are woven through the Bible from its earliest pages right up to how they apply in our world today. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking at our world right now, a world in crisis. Then we'll travel back to what the study calls the original blueprint for a society. After that, we'll hear from the prophets of justice, see how the gospel for the poor is framed in the New Testament, and finally, we'll explore a legacy of action that's still making waves. Okay, first up, a world in crisis. The study makes it crystal clear right from the get-go that this is not some dusty historical exercise. Nope, this is all about connecting an ancient text to the urgent, real-world problems we see in the headlines every single day. And to really get a sense of the scale, the study hits us with this staggering number. Corruption in Africa costs an estimated $148 billion a year. Let that sink in. That's over a quarter of the entire continent's GDP. It just immediately shows you the massive real-world weight of what we're talking about. And then there's the human side of it. The study points to a World Bank figure that classified 4 billion people as poor. 4 billion! That huge slice of humanity grounds this whole conversation not just in economics, but in a really profound human crisis. So all of that leads to the central question that really drives this entire study. It's a direct challenge. With problems this big, what are we supposed to do? What's the right response? The rest of this explainer is all about unpacking the answer that the study puts forward. Now, to really get what the study is saying, we've got to use its definitions. So when it talks about poverty, it doesn't just mean not having money. It's talking about a holistic problem, something that's physical, emotional, and spiritual. And justice? That's not just a courtroom thing. It's about fairness in every part of society. This bigger, broader view is absolutely key to understanding everything else. So let's move on to section 2 and see how this all starts to build. We're going way back to the beginning, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. The study presents these books as God's foundational design, kind of like the original blueprint for what a just and fair society is supposed to look like. And right away, the study points out this really fascinating tension. On one hand, you've got this incredible ideal, a world with no poverty, period. But on the other hand, you have all these practical laws and provisions for what to do when poverty does happen. It's this powerful look at the ideal versus the real. You know, one of the most radical ideas in here is the year of Jubilee. The best way to think about it is like a giant societal reset button. Every 50 years, the whole system was designed to correct itself. Slaves were freed, debts were canceled, land went back to its original family. It was this incredible mechanism to prevent poverty from becoming a generational trap. But what happens when people just ignore the blueprint? Well, that brings us right to section 3, the prophets of justice. Now, the study frames these books not as some kind of fortune-telling, but as this passionate, divine outcry against Israel's failure to live up to that original vision. I mean, the language here is just so direct, so raw. This quote from Isaiah isn't just a slap on the wrist for bad behavior. It's a full-on condemnation of systemic injustice, of leaders who literally write oppression into the law books to keep the poor from getting a fair shake. Then you get this famous line from Amos, which is just such a powerful metaphor. The study explains that justice isn't supposed to be some stagnant pond. It's meant to be an active, flowing, life-giving force in society, always moving, always cleansing, like a powerful river that can't be stopped. And here's a really crucial takeaway from the prophets. God's anger is directly tied to human inaction. The study points to this passage from Isaiah and shows that the shocking thing wasn't just that injustice was happening, it was that nobody was stepping in to do anything about it. So how does this thread carry on into the New Testament? Well, let's jump into section 4. This section looks at the New Testament as this renewed call to action, basically framing the gospel message itself as being deeply invested in fixing poverty, corruption, and injustice. This moment in the Gospel of Luke is presented as Jesus's big debut, like his public mission statement. And just look at the first thing he talks about. His entire mission kicks off with a declaration of good news to the poor and freedom for the oppressed. He's directly picking up where the prophets left off. And this wasn't just talk. The study shows how the very first Christian communities put this stuff into practice immediately. Caring for the needy, looking after widows, helping the poor, this wasn't some side project for them. It was a core part of who they were. And that brings us to our final section, a legacy of action. Here, the study jumps from the ancient texts into the real world, showing how these biblical principles inspired actual historical figures to do incredible things. Let's take William Wilberforce. The study points to his diary, where he wrote down his life's mission, what he called his two great objects. And what's so fascinating is the combination. One was this huge fight for social justice, abolishing the slave trade, and the other was this deep concern for the moral health of society. Now here's the crucial part. For him, these two goals were totally connected. The study presents Wilberforce as this amazing model of an integrated faith, where your personal beliefs have to fuel your fight for public justice. They aren't separate things. They're two sides of the very same coin. And of course, the study brings up Martin Luther King Jr. as another powerful example of this legacy. His nonviolent struggle for civil rights, and later his Poor People's Campaign, are shown to be completely rooted in a faith that demands both racial and economic justice. The examples are global too. The study includes Mother Teresa and her life of service, making the point that her motivation wasn't just abstract charity. It was this profound belief that when she was serving the poorest of the poor, she was literally serving God. And so, at the end of it all, we're left with that same haunting challenge from the prophet Isaiah, just reframed for us right now. After tracing this powerful idea all through scripture and history, the final, lingering question is this. If God is appalled by an action, what does it look like for us to intervene today?